Good afternoon, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Google+. This is Rich again, back for your second video blog of the day for Wednesday, April 13th, 2016, around 4:02 in the afternoon in Billerica, Massachusetts. It's a sunny day out today, highs in the mid-50s, a seasonably day, which it's a little slightly cool. But, you know, can't complain. It could be 10 inches of snow out there, or ice, or thunder showers, or 90 degrees. But, you know, the warm weather's coming this weekend, so everybody be prepared for that. Next weekend's colder than average again, and that's not good. Can't go from cool weather to warm weather, back to cool weather and cold weather. That's how a lot of flus and people getting colds and sick. And that's it. For that, some news to the report. The Sacramento Kings are going to fire head coach George Karl tomorrow, and the University of Southern California has named Pro Football Hall of Fame wide receiver Lynn Swann its new athletic director. And 17 and 19 years ago today was the last game played by the Hartford Whalers. And 59 years ago today, the Boston Celtics won their first NBA World title. And that's about it on that. The second video blog subject of the day is something that also happened 19 years ago today. The first ever ECW pay-per-view, barely legal, which took place at the Viking Bingo Hall, also known as the ECW Arena. That's in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This was the first time that ECW went on pay-per-view to hold a wrestling card. In the 1990s, ECW was the third hottest wrestling promotion in the United States. It was run and owned by Paul Heyman. It was started out in 1992 as Eastern Championship Wrestling, but in the fall of 1994 it was rebranded as Extreme Championship Wrestling and was known for hardcore wrestling and some stars that would be rejected by WWE and WCW, and it kind of cult following on low-powered independent stations very late at night. It was seen in Boston on WUNI Channel 27 at 1 a.m. and they were going to get a deal in 1996 to be on pay-per-view by the 1st of 1997, January of 1997, but that was delayed because of an incident that happened in Revere, Massachusetts, November 1996, when there was a wrestler by the name of Mass Transit who was actually underage get attacked by one of the gangsters. That's another story for another day. And they delayed it, and there was talk that ECW was never going to be on pay-per-view, but the viewer's choice reluctantly agreed, and on April 13th, 1997, on Viewer's Choice, up to 17 million homes could be able to see ECW. And the pay-per-view started at 9 p.m., and 1,100 fans saw it crammed into a tiny ECW arena. Joey Styles was the play-by-play announcer of the barely legal pay-per-view, first wrestling announcer to do the entire pay-per-view with himself, but he had guest commentating at one of the matches with the innovator of violence, Tommy Dreamer. First match on this pay-per-view was for the ECW World Tag Team Championship. It was the Eliminators, Perry Saturn and John Cronus, the challengers, facing off against the Dudley Boys, Bubba Ray and Devon Dudley, with Sign Guy Dudley, and the quintessential stud muffin, Joe Gertner. And this was like a return match that happened like a few weeks prior in ECW Arena, which the Dudley Boys beat the Eliminators to take the ECW World Tag Team titles, and then like Joe Gertner was just getting very, very excited. This was a start of a long-term partnership between like Joe Gertner and the Dudley Boys. And this match was kind of a squash. The Eliminators like dominated Bubba Ray and Devon Dudley. The ending had the Eliminators hit Bubba Ray Dudley with elimination, and then Saturn pins Bubba Ray for the 1, 2, 3 to become the 3-time ECW World Tag Team Championships. This was the last great moment for the Eliminators because eventually they would break up within 2 months as Perry Saturn suffers a career-ending knee injury, but it wasn't serious because a few months later he signed with WCW and joined Raven's flock. Eventually, Perry Saturn joined the WWE, and he's known for having a mop as his manager, Moppy, in 2001. The Dudley Boys eventually won several more ECW World Tag Team Championships and WWE Tag Team Championships and WCW Tag Team Championships and TNA Tag Team Championships. So they're one of the most decorated tag teams in professional wrestling history. And Bubba Ray Dudley would push Devon and says, Devon, get the tables! The next match was a one-on-one match. It was Lance Storm. Can I be serious for a minute? He didn't say that back then. He was kind of like a boring baby face against Mr. Monday Night, Rob Van Dam, substituting for Chris Candido, who was injured. Before the match, Rob Van Dam blasted the ECW crowd because the ECW crowd said, "You sold out, you sold out, you sold out, you sold out." There was big rumors going around the internet at this time that Rob Van Dam was going to sign with either the WWE or WCW, but those rumors were false. And Rob Van Dam and Lance Storm had a great match, back and forth. RVD won by pinning Lance Storm after the 5-star Frog Splash with the 1, 2, 3. So RVD wins. The next match was the Michinoku Pro 6-man tag team match. Michinoku Pro was a professional wrestling organization in Japan, which in Japan they treat professional wrestling like a legitimate sport. And they had the great Sasuke, the Graham Hamaka, and Masatoku Yokokisa facing off against BWO Japan, which was Taka Michinoku, Terry Boy, and Dick Togo. The BWO had a representative to Japan. These 3 wrestlers, kind of a mock of NWO Japan, which the BWO was a mock of the NWO. And this was about a 20-minute match. It was back and forth. Half the time, all 6 wrestlers were in the ring. Sometimes it was 4. And this was wild and stuff. ECW showcased a lot of Mexican wrestlers and luchadors, so it was very exciting to see. If you put this stuff around this time on a WWE pay-per-view or the WCW pay-per-view, it would put everybody who was watching the crowd to sleep. It would be kind of like a popcorn match or a bathroom break and stuff. But this was very exciting for ECW. And the ending had the great Sasuke beat Taka Michinoku with the Liger driver for the 1, 2, 3. Eventually, the great Sasuke and Taka Michinoku went to the WWE. Taka Michinoku became the light heavyweight champion, but he's known for being part of Kaientai with Funaki, who was at one time SmackDown's #1 announcer. The next match was for the ECW World Television Championship. It was Pitbull #2 with Pitbull #1 facing off against the franchise Shane Douglas with the Queen of Extreme, Francine. And there was a special stipulation in this match. If Pitbull #2 would win, he would get the ECW World title. But if Shane Douglas won, then the masked wrestler who was stalking Shane Douglas and Francine would have to unmask. And weeks prior to it, the masked wrestler sounded like ravishing Rick Rude, but the masked wrestler denied it was Rick Rude. And this was a decent match, back and forth, interference by the Pit Bowl number 1 and Francine and Chris Candido. In the end, Shane Douglas gave the belly-to-belly suplex to Pitbull number 2, pinning him 1, 2, 3. And Shane Douglas retains the ECW World Television title. And then the masked wrestler came in and he had an unmasked. He wore a simply ravishing robe, but the masked wrestler was kind of stalking Francine and was going to try to unmask. But then all of a sudden, Rick Rude comes in and attacks Shane Douglas, and the masked wrestler reveals to himself to be the Bulldozer, primetime Brian Lee, who was part of the Triple Threat, but he's not part of the Triple Threat anymore because he turns on Shane Douglas and Chris Candido. This was supposed to lead to a Bulldozer Brian Lee versus Shane Douglas feud, but it didn't come to pass because a few weeks later, Brian Lee signs with the WWE and becomes Chains of the DOA. The next match was a grudge match of the century. It was the Human Suplex Machine Taz with the man who calls it down the middle, Bill Alfonso, who loves to shake the ropes, facing off against a homicidal, genocidal, suicidal superstar of ECW at the time, Sabu. And this feud was a year in the making because the build-up to this feud was awesome. It started when Sabu came back to ECW. Taz wanted to get a match with Sabu, but he was turned down. Eventually, November 1996 was a face-off between Sabu and Taz, and they signed the card in February 1997 for the main event, Sabu vs. Taz, for the ECW at the ECW first pay-per-view. Barely legal, but this was the third to last match on the show, so it's not technically the main event. And like, Taz was attacking Sabu a couple of times because he refused to want to face him one-on-one. And this was an awesome match. Back and forth between Sabu and Taz, moves like crazy. But in the end, Taz beat Sabu in the middle of the ring, 1, 2, 3. Afterwards, Sabu and Taz shake hands, and Bill Alfonso's pissed because he takes off his Team Taz shirt and reveals Sabu t-shirt. Bill Alfonso put all his money on Sabu to beat Taz, and Taz won, so Bill Alfonso turned on Taz and became the manager of Sabu and Rob Van Dam, and they did a double switch. Sabu turned face to heel, and Taz turned heel to face. The next match was a three-way dance, also a triple threat match for the ECW World title. For the right to face off Raven for the ECW World title was the hardcore legend Terry Funk, you egg-sucking dog, you dusty old, facing off against the Sandman, and facing off against Big Stevie Cool of the BWO, and Big Stevie Cool was with the Blue Guy and Hollywood Nova and 7-Eleven, and they introduced a new character, Inchworm, as a knockoff to Dennis Rodman. And this was an over 20-minute match. It lasted longer than the allowed time was. It was crazy. Sandman, Big Stevie Cool, and Terry Funk were fighting all over. There were tables, there were ladders. It was awesome. Terry Funk gave Big Stevie Cool several rude awakenings, but Big Stevie Cool would kick out, and then the Sandman used the Singapore cane to knock Terry Funk and Big Stevie Cool out, but in the end, Terry Funk beats both Sandman and Big Stevie Cool to get to face Raven. Special guest commentating was Tommy Dreamer and Beulah McGillicuddy. And then it was Raven defending the ECW World title against Terry Funk. Raven had to start ran in the ring almost immediately because they were running short on time. And the 7-minute match between Raven and Terry Funk, nothing that special. Like, Raven was beating up on Terry Funk, and Terry Funk was, smacking Raven. Interference by a woman wrestler named Reggie Burnett, and the return of Big Dick Dudley to help Raven was no use. Tommy Dreamer interfered, gave Raven the DDT, and Terry Funk goes over and pins Raven for the 1, 2, 3. 53 years old, Terry Funk becomes the new ECW World Champion, and that ends the pay-per-view. And a couple minutes after the pay-per-view was over, the power at ECW Arena was turned off, went off. There was a power outage because a small arena at ECW Arena could not generate a lot of power after so many hours, and they avoided disaster like that, because if that went long and the pay-per-view audience would not be able to see what happened because the power would be off, and it avoided a financial disaster by ECW. What did I think about ECW Barely Legal pay-per-view? It was an average pay-per-view. There were some good matches, but others, weren't that great. The Terry Funk versus Sandman versus Big Stevie Cool match was probably the best match of the pay-per-view. It took up too much time. Like the title match should have been at least like 12 minutes or so. And Taz versus Sabu was, okay. The double turn was, kind of a little pointless. And like Shane Douglas versus Pitbull #2 was an okay match. The Michinoku 6-man tag was way too long, in my humble opinion. RVD and Lance Storm was decent, and the Eliminators versus Dudley Boys match was kind of a total squash, so probably a C at best. And ECW would do pay-per-views until they folded in 2001. So that's about it on that. Be back for the third and final video blog on night, which will be about former Major League Baseball player Jose Canseco. Keep calm, everybody. I'm a Julie Budding guy. Molly Rosenblatt, WCCO accidents, nice legs. Elizabeth Hat's so stunning, she's the best. Amy Swensley's awesome. And Julie Gower, Fox 25 rocks. Bye now.